is organized by CIPESA in collaboration with ICNL and an initiative we call the Digital Rights Alliance Africa. Digital Rights Alliance Africa is a loose platform or coalition, whatever you'd want to call it, that aims to respond to key digital rights issues that affect us on the African continent, especially as a means to respond to emerging and increasing digital authoritarianism on the continent. But before we go far, allow me to welcome my panelists who will be joining us for our session. I am Irene Wanyama, I'm the moderator, so I'm already here. I will not welcome myself. Lillian, Kariuki, are you here? You're very welcome. Let's give her a hand clap as she comes up. Nicolette Besinga, are you here? She's not. Okay, it's fine. She went too? She won't be around. It's okay. It's okay. Phakamile Kumalo. Can someone call Phakamile? She's been around. Oh, let's try to reach her. And then we can have Afia from Meta. Let's give her a hand clap as she joins us. Today is the last day of the forum, and why we had to start on time, we're actually late. I was here on the dot. It is because there are so many events lined up before the closure. So whatever mess we do now is going to mess up the time that is ahead of us. And the sessions will be cut short. Please wind up, summarize. You have 2 minutes, you have 1 minute. So I wanted us to start early enough so that we deliberate and do not lose out anything. By way of background, as we wait for our colleagues, for Phakamile, who is not yet here, the digital landscape in Africa has experienced a transformative shift, reshaping how children engage and learn and exercise their rights, both online and offline. While the challenges of the digital divide remain, an estimated 40% of African children aged 15 years and above now have internet access. This internet access opens up new avenues for education and connectivity. This trend was even accelerated by the COVID-19 pandemic because it created a situation where children had to go online to study, to engage, to entertain themselves, or to be preoccupied because they had less to do. The COVID-19 pandemic underscored the importance of digital platforms for learning, social interaction, and access to essential services, including in-person activities. The rapid expansion of digital access for Africa's children and youth has created a complex ecosystem of opportunities and risks, particularly for our children. As children increasingly engage in the digital world, the need for specialized protection to address their unique vulnerabilities has become evident, with the right to privacy standing out as both a critical concern and an enabling right. Privacy rights, of course, are essential for safeguarding children's safety and supporting their freedom of expression and access to information. Nevertheless, these things operate within what we'd call age limits within which children should be able to access certain content. And as such, so many things happen around us. We have all sorts of risks that have come against our children. Some children have committed suicide because of online activities. Our children have engaged in pornographic activities because of internet access. Our children have fallen victim to sex predators because of internet access. And our children have, of course, become disobedient. They have stopped going to schools. They have decided to do as they wish because of internet access. Together joining me is a panel of experts, two so far, one is not here, who have done work extensively on child rights on the continent. I'll ask them to introduce themselves and the organizations they come from, and then we'll see how we move on from here. Thank you very much. We'll start on this is my extreme, I'm standing like this. This is my left, yeah. The next to my left will introduce themselves first, and then we'll go the other side.
Thank you so much, Adrian. So I'm Lillian Kariuki, and I wear various hats in the child online safety space within the region. I am the executive secretary for ACOSA. ACOSA stands for Africa Child Online Safety Alliance. So this is a network of NGOs within the region working specifically on matters child online safety. So far we have 10 member countries. So we have Kenya. Listen out if your country is not part of ACOSA. We have, we have Kenya, Tanzania, Ethiopia, Nigeria, Senegal, Ghana, Cameroon, Namibia, and South Africa. So far, we have 10 countries as part of ACOSA members. On top, and Kenya, sorry, I keep on forgetting Kenya because I'm from Kenya, yeah. I also am the founder and executive director for an organization called Watoto Watch Network, which is now 12 years in when it comes to running awareness sessions within Kenya on child online safety. So that is all we've done for the last 12 years. We also work very closely with the government. So our organization is part of the National Technical Working Group within Kenya, in Kenya. So we work with the government, we work with the law enforcement, and we also work with the communications regulator. I'll share a bit more later on how we work with the government. Last but not least, I am also a member of the TikTok Advisory Board for Sub-Saharan Africa, and I'm happy to be here. Thanks.
Yeah. Introduce yourself and where you've come from. Where you come from, it's okay.
Afternoon, everyone. Apologies about being late. I think times with sessions that stopped a bit later on kind of disrupted. My name is Phakamile Khumalo. I come from South Africa. The organization I represent today is the Digital Rights Africa Alliance, but I also work for Media Monitoring Africa in South Africa. A little bit about the work we do in relations to children's digital rights. I run a program with South Africa called Bonabana, which is a Sesotho word called Sea Children. And it's really an urgent kind of and continuous call for for big tech, for platforms, the media and government to respect children's digital rights and advance children's digital rights. We do a whole lot of projects related to empowering journalists and media houses on how to respect children's rights in the media, but also empowering communities, schools, children, parents on how to advance children's digital rights.
Good afternoon, everybody. My names are Efia Asantua Sariche. I'm a Ghanaian-born, South African-raised lawyer. I sit in here as a member of the Meta Oversight Board. So just a disclaimer, I do not work for Meta. We are the oversight board that works to ensure that Meta respects its policies, its values, and its human rights commitments. So I'm not with Meta. I'm with the oversight board of Meta, or the oversight board that checks Meta. And I'm happy to be here. I was roped onto this session, but I willingly and happily accepted the invitation because I actually started my professional work as a child protection officer some 20-something, 25 years ago with Save the Children. So I have done quite a bit of work on child protection, but here I will speak about some of the work that the Oversight Board has been doing around protection of children, while also ensuring that we create spaces for children to also engage in healthy information sharing, healthy debates online. So I'm happy and looking forward to the conversation.
Thank you very much. This is what we're looking for. Those who were here before, I read an extract. That extract is picked from a report that we commissioned under the Digital Rights Alliance Africa. This report sought to understand the dynamics of child privacy on the African continent. And this report is available on the Digital Rights Alliance Africa website. And this report spans across 10 countries. So we looked at Eastern Africa, where we looked at Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, and Rwanda. In Northern Africa, we looked at Algeria and Egypt. In Southern Africa, we looked at Botswana and South Africa. And in West Africa, we looked at Ghana and Nigeria. I invite you to go take time and look at that report. It has very good information. Nevertheless, let's get back to what the main reason as to why we're here. And I think I'll start with, again, just on my extreme left. Should I sit or I stand? Pardon? Sit, stand. Sit. Okay. You are the bosses. All right, thank you very much. I'll start with my extreme left, Kariuki, and I would like you to respond to a few things about, would you tell us, having listened to how child privacy or child protection in the online space is actually very problematic on the African continent and across the world, what is your take about the child online safety landscape in Africa in terms of the laws, policies across the continent?
Thank you so much. So when it comes to policies, allow me to even mention the countries, because we are working, as a COSA, we are working in a lot of other countries. So from the AU level, what we have as of now that is clear when it comes to child online safety, we have the Child Online Safety Empowerment Policy, which was released back in 2024, okay, from the AU level. So what the AU is working on right now, which they started out last year, February, they called upon CSOs to sit and develop a model law on child online safety, which is just a model law. We are hoping that it's done. It's currently at the verification stage. And by next year, February, we are hoping that the ministers will, sign on it when they go to AU. But those are the two concrete policies that I would say that are coming from the AU. But in terms of other countries, what we are seeing in the laws and in the acts, child online safety is just being put in, being captured in the different laws, but not as a standalone law, okay? So in Kenya, we have the Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act. It captions some aspects on pornography, child pornography. It captures cyberbullying, or we call cyber harassment. When you go to Tanzania, we also have the same. They're only having sections or issues, targeted issues on child online safety, which I'd say is a big gap because it's not capturing other issues children are going through on the online space. I think the only other country that has a standalone policy in the Africa region is Rwanda. Rwanda have a child online safety policy. All the other countries, we are still within the cybercrime acts and laws, and also the child protection acts. For Kenya, we have a very recent act, which is the Children's Act 2022, and it has more detailed information on child online safety issues, but it's still not a standalone law. And I believe we need to work towards that. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. How about from a perspective of economic blocks? Anything that you, like East Africa, East Africa or?
From the EAC, from the East Africa community?
Yes, yes.
In terms of our strategy or, not that I know of, we have not sat down with East Africa community to come up with something. Every country has their own individual strategy or policy. In Uganda, they have a strategy towards child online safety, but nothing as an East African region. We are only looking towards the AU to come up with something that we can adapt from that, hopefully adapt from that. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. I'll cross on to Phakamile. You have done a lot of work from your experience. What are some of the commonest blind spots that are really undermining child protection and safety online on this continent?
Thank you, Adrian. Before I get to that question, I think, again, it's from the African Union. We also have from the African Committee of Experts on the Rights and Welfare of the Child, we have Resolution 17, which is in 2022, which kind of focuses on promoting children's rights in the digital sphere. It kind of urges African states to prioritize and improve like cybersecurity laws, enforce policies protecting children online, and report on progress to the African Committee, which is, I think, it's helpful. But again, this comes from the African Union, and we also have the African Union Convention on Ending Violence Against Women and Girls, and that's from 2024. And that specifically talks about, or expands the definition of gender-based violence to include digital and online violence, which I think is helpful in that regard. But again, we're seeing a lot of implementation gaps. And I think some of the blind spots, I'll start with kind of the most urgent, or is becoming increasingly urgent, which is algorithmic harm and AI risks. Most of our countries are still trying to grapple with AI, really, and trying to figure out or how to update existing laws or create new laws that are going to address the impact of AI on children's digital rights. And meanwhile, while all that is happening in terms of trying to grapple with the idea of AI, AI is continuing to exploit children's data, creating harmful profiles of children or exposing them to biased content. And we're seeing a lot of children being manipulated by algorithms designed to keep them engaged, echo chambers that they are then exposed to, and all of this undermines their development and autonomy, right? And I think the big issue around child online safety is that and digital harms in particular, is that it affects children in very specific ways. And throughout the 2 days of the conference, we've been talking about digital harms and how it affects communities and countries. But it affects children in very specific ways that are related to the levels of autonomy, development, but also mental health and growth. And so when we are talking about child online safety, we always have to have that at the back of our minds, that young people are still evolving and they have evolving capacity, but they're still children. And these digital rights need to kind of work for them now as children, not when a lot of conversations we have with adults is that, so we'll have these digital rights, but they will only exercise them when they're adults, right? And it's that, no, children, that's the reason why we have children's rights so that they can access them now as children. And so that's really something that we always need to have at the back of our heads when we're talking about children's rights or digital rights. And there's an example of the impact of AI. In the US, I think this year, in April 2025, there was a boy, 16-year-old boy, who was having a conversation with ChatGPT and expressing their thoughts about they were trying to end their life, their plans about suicide and wanting to end their life. And not only did the chatbot discourage, not only did it not discourage him to speak or to seek help from parents, it offered him a write-up of his suicide note and then gave him instructions about how to commit or to complete the suicide. Unfortunately, he lost his life, and parents are now suing OpenAI over the death of their son. And also now, because of the traction and the trending of the story in the US, there's this conversation around parenting controls for AI, right? But it happens after a child has lost their life. And we don't even know the tremendous effects that AI has on children, children's engagement with AI. Apart from what we know, when teachers tell us that they copy and paste and issues of plagiarism. But beyond that, we really have no idea the impact that AI has on children. And this is just one example, right? There's this issue of age verification also, where implemented technologies or policies just can't be able to prevent underage access to harmful content. It's just failing our children. And existing laws often don't specifically tackle how to regulate technologies that could help us monitor or restrict children's interaction online effectively. And so that's also a huge area that we need to focus on, or there is a blind spot in terms of policy. And I don't really want to talk about children with disabilities and we've been talking about this throughout the 2 days, that persons with disabilities are just not mentioned in policies in an effective way. And this is also, again, with children. It happens with children. But the African Union Child Online Safety and Empowerment Policy does explicitly recognize the unique needs and rights of children with disabilities, and that's hopeful, right? Again, it goes back to implementation. Are states going to implement that policy and make it a real living policy within their countries? We'll see how that happens. The legal landscape itself is fragmented and incomplete, like what Lillian said. Limited scope or poorly enforced regulations across the board. We lack harmonization. All our laws are just all over the place. There's no harmonization. Around is even definitions and approaches to tackle online, for example, on child online sexual abuse material, right? One law will say child pornography, the other will say child sexual abuse material. We haven't even agreed on just terms and concepts when it comes to children. And when you're trying to do cross-border cooperation, it becomes increasingly difficult to try and kind of hold those who need to be accountable, right? So we need to also think about that. The last one is platform accountability is also another major issue. And then we have states that are coming up with or including in their online safety policies or cybersecurity laws, investing in digital and media literacy, but not meaningful digital and media literacy. They still struggle with the balance of balancing online safety with empowerment of young people. So a lot of the laws around digital and media literacy, for example, in schools, in the different states, for example, in Botswana, in Lesotho, in Namibia, in South Africa, will have and what that means for governments is that when we say digital and media literacy is that let's just flood the school with technology. Just give them devices. Without any kind of meaningful integration of digital literacy in the curricula, without involving parents and censoring the young person, involving parents, involving community members, even teachers. Reports will tell you that even teachers are not well equipped to use the devices that are in the schools. Which speaks to really understanding the issues that young people face online. So those are just some of the policy gaps that are still persistent and kind of hinder any efforts towards meaningful child protection online.
Thank you. Just as a follow-up from your discussions when I was listening, I remember reading some reports from South Africa about food in respect of algorithmic harms, that when children are actually watching, because they're watching particular content, they keep suggesting particular foods, And as a result, the endangered, some of them are obese, some of them are so, because that is what they target and eat. And not only children, even the big people here, because of what they are interested in certain things. So to what extent have you heard about it, and how does it affect the children? Anyway, yeah.
I think more broadly, it's just the way that algorithms work and the inability to understand how AI and algorithms work in general. When we do our digital literacy trainings in countries, we always tell young people, try to confuse the algorithm. Confuse it so much that you like so many diverse things that it can't be able to see what exactly you like, right? Because the algorithm will give you, we know this, it'll give you things that you like. And what that does is echo chambers, but also it polarizes issues. And so if food is, I wouldn't say it's polarization of issues on food, but it does give them content that is not in their best interest. At Media Monitoring Africa, we like to talk about a social media diet. Just like how you'd have a diet, a healthy diet as a young person, or as an adult or a young person, there's also this idea of a social media diet, and you need to diversify what is on your plate so that you are able to get many different diverse viewpoints so that you can make an informed decision. I'll tell you and give you an example. We did a study last year around climate change disinformation. And we had a control group, which was young people that had engaged in our media and information literacy courses for the last 3 years. And we had young people and these young people, the control group was in Johannesburg, and one group was in KZN, where there's a lot of climate events going on with flooding and so forth. So they are really feeling the impact of climate change. And when we asked them, do they encounter climate change disinformation online, they said yes. And we asked them, do you have any tactics, any strategies on how to counter disinformation related to climate change? The answers were no from the KZN group. And we also asked them, do you know how to build resilience against climate change disinformation as a young person who's experiencing incidents of climate change in real time? And it was just that, no, we've just been taught that when there's flooding in the area, those who I don't think there's a lot of us here who are Zulu speaking, they would know of Inkanyamba. It's like this big, huge beast that is in the water, and when it's angry, it just floods the whole of the region. And there's nothing we can do about it. So that kind of perception and not understanding that the stuff that I'm seeing online around Inkanyamba are not true. And science is telling me this. And who do I believe? You know, that critical thinking is just not there. So even with issues of AI and AI generative content affecting young people, it does really affect young people, and it decreases the amount of decision-making, proper and informed decision-making that young people can be able to have in the online space.
All right, I'll cross to Efia. Efia, it's great to have you here, and as you know, social media is one of the big platforms that we have. So many children have lied to Facebook or Meta about their age, and they've been able to open accounts. So many advertisers are carrying out deceptive advertisements on Meta. So many people are uploading inappropriate content. And also we know that some parents just give open access to children to some of these platforms. What is your story? Tell us about the measures that are in place, or what has been done to ensure that they buttress protection of children on these platforms. Over to you, Efia.
Thank you, Adrian, and quite disheartening, listening to Phakamile and Lillian around just the lack of comprehensive legislation, both at the sub-regional as well as the continental level, to protect our children. Like most things, there's always snippets of provisions in existing legislation, but we never have a standalone legislation dealing with critical issues, such as child safety. I'm going to humanize the conversation a bit for us. So 2 days ago, there was Emma Mason. Emma Mason was addressing the UN General Assembly on Wednesday. Emma Mason is the mother of Tilly Mason, Matilda Mason. Tilly is a 15-year-old girl who committed suicide in July 2022 as a result of social media bullying. Tilly's death is what led Australia to impose an under-16 social media ban law in the country. So that is really what we are dealing with. The fact that if this practice goes unchecked, it will cause lives and lives of our children. And I watched that video of Emma Mason telling the world leaders about her beautiful 15-year-old girl who took her own life because of bullying from some of her own friends. So my story is not a very good one. It's not a very palatable one. It's actually a very sad one, because we are seeing the effect and impact that social media is having on our children, it's minors. Now, based on our work and our research, we have found that there are serious policy and enforcement challenges at Meta when it comes to children online safety. The child safety tools at the platform are just not effective. And I'll tell you another story. We had an engagement with a gentleman who was a senior officer at Meta. He was actually a security expert. He was in charge of designing the security system for Meta on the two platforms, Facebook and Instagram. I don't know how many of you followed the 2023 Wall Street Journal whistleblower or leak, where Arturo Beja, this is the former Meta security expert, who led a team. Arturo's 14-year-old child then decided to show the father what the platform is really all about. The predatory behavior on the platform. So this is me sitting here thinking that I'm the security expert, I'm the one designing the tools to save our children, and he got the wake up of his life when his 14-year-old son basically showed him how he can go around the system, he can game the system, and show him the kind of behavior that is existing on the platform. So we do have a lot of problems and serious challenges with moderating content on the platform vis-a-vis children. I also had the privilege of engaging the global vice president at Meta in charge of policy, Monica Bickett. And Monica told us that one of the most serious challenges they are having is exactly that, children on the platform. Because like Phakamile and I believe Lillian both mentioned, questions around age verification, authenticity questions are very challenging for them. Because we do also have very smart children nowadays. They can game the system. But that is the responsibility of the platform, to ensure that children are not able to go around and game the system. So the oversight board, having seen what is happening, you know, today it is Australia that has imposed the ban. The UK is having conversations right now about whether or not they should extend their Online Safety Act to actually include complete underage social media ban. But on July 25th, they imposed further restrictions on their Online Safety Act, where social media, in fact, children are not able to access certain content, and they've listed the content. All I'm saying is that some of our states, some of the countries, that side, are getting serious about this issue. And our countries and our region, we are seriously lacking behind. Because they are seeing, perhaps the story of Emma is happening in a number of African countries, but we are not hearing about it. So I think we do need to do more work. Then specifically the oversight board. So we've had a couple of cases. We actually selected children's rights as one of our priority areas, our strategic priorities that we work on. If you go on the OSB website, you will see our strategic priorities, and children's rights is one of them, because why? We increasingly got a lot of cases and appeals that were dealing with children's issues, but specifically around how Meta implements its child exploitation, abuse, nudity policy, and the fact that in the application of the policy, there are so many inconsistencies when it comes to that. We've had a number of cases on it. One of them dealt briefly was the case that engaged a documentary film, a very short documentary film from Pakistan that was talking about, Javed Iqbal, who was a child, he's a serial killer that operated in Pakistan in the 1990s and killed a number of children, over 100 children. And there was a documentary about the need for greater accountability for child, because he molested, he sexually assaulted children, and then some of them raped and killed them. And when the piece of content came to us, Meta was saying, oh, no, yes, it is raising awareness, it is education, but we are going to keep it on. And we had a split decision, just to tell you that even at the board level, some of our cases, we are not in agreement. There was a majority who thought that exposing children's names and faces and things should be on the platform. And then there was a minority at the board who says no. They can still raise awareness. They can still, we can still, trigger and provoke public debate about that particular incident that happened. It's 25 years ago. It's historic. We do need to protect the privacy of the families and the dignity of the children. So we don't think that we should list their names and put their photos online. But just to say that even when we engage on case deliberation, the board, we are 21 members from all over the world, with some who are absolute speech, First Amendment, American speech protection, free protectionists. And then there are some of us who say we need to balance free speech with human rights. And so it's a very interesting balance, but all discussions that I have been privileged to, whether it is in homes, whether it is in schools, whether it is in Congress, what the priority is around child safety. We are recognizing that children should have access to the platforms to share their information, to voice their opinions and their viewpoints, but not at the risk of real-world harm to them. So that's really what the Oversight Board has been doing, and engaging Meta for them to improve their child safety tools, for them to consistently monitor their policy on child exploitation, abuse, and nudity. The case, I don't know how many of you followed our case on the Iran forced marriage one, where it's a video of a beautician in Iran getting ready a 14-year-old girl for marriage. And so in this video, there's a conversation between the 14-year-old girl and the beautician, talking about how they should prioritize marriage over education, and all of that. And Meta kept it online. And when it came to us, we told them, no, remove it. This is promoting early child marriage, but also, which is a form of forced marriage. So while it might be permitted in Iran, based on international human rights law, you can't keep that. Not that it discriminates against the girl child. Forced marriages disproportionately impact girls, mostly. And also it's a form of gender-based violence. And so we told them, remove it and make sure that you provide guidance to your human reviewers. When they see this type of content, they should remove it. So we are working with Meta, but Meta is just one of the platforms. There is TikTok, there is X, and others, even though X seems to have some interesting authentication and age verification. But like I said, our children are very smart. Nowadays, I don't bother. Whatever I buy, any kind of tech tool or thing, I just hand it over to my 10-year-old, and he will sort me out. So we do need to be greater. We do need to exercise greater caution when it comes to them.
Thank you very much. People, you've heard about a fear from the Meta Oversight Board. How about you? And sharing statuses on your WhatsApp, posting people's children on your WhatsApp because it's their birthday. How about you posting pictures on Facebook, people's pictures without permission? How about gaming sites that you're allowing your children to play and they come with different kinds of adverts? How about sports betting, where children are actually involved? They say it's not for below 18, but there's no follow-up to make sure. So I think the responsibility lies with you, right? Are we together? So it is with you. So it's a sad story. If you're not a parent, you may not understand. But when you become a parent, you will know when the children challenge you. In reverse order from Efia, we'd like to know, what can we do before we can actually open up for questions and responses, or questions and discussions? So when Phakamile, when you can intervene what you wanted to say, and then tell us what we can actually do to make the situation better. So in that order from Efia, what can we do?
I think what we need to do is to recognize the urgency of the time that we are living in, and push the same urgency to our leaders to work on that model law and hopefully get the model law promulgated at the national level. The EU, for example, has the Digital Services Act, the DSA. Article 21 of the DSA actually imposes obligations on the social media platforms that, look, you need to make sure that our children on those platforms are safe, high level of safety, higher levels of due diligence. They are saying, look, you can't post harmful content on our children shouldn't be privy to harmful content on your platforms. The EU recently issued guiding principles or guidance on social media and imposes fines on social media platforms when they don't abide by Article 19, Article 21 of the DSA. So I think we do need to, again, it's a word, a phrase I really liked. I think I picked it up a few years ago at the Digital Rights and Inclusion Forum in Nairobi, which was multi-stakeholderism. And I think that's an approach we need to adopt, which is we all need to come together and work and push our leaders. Because if at the AU level we have something such as DSA, which imposes obligations on the social media platforms and fines, they will sit up. Because at the board, I have seen how even policies, how certain things are applied differently because they know that we don't have the kind of protection at our continental level or at our national level. So the things that, for example, in the US, Facebook cannot get away with, it can get away with in South Africa or in another African country. So I think we need to, I guess, turn the gaze back on ourselves. They have their work to do, and we should push them to do their work. But I think if we get our ducks in a row, then they will be obliged to respect whatever legal provisions or legislative provisions that exist for the social media platforms.
Phakamile?
Thank you. I think we've stressed this a lot in this few minutes we've been talking around states and really prioritizing, updating, harmonizing their laws, creating a standalone law. I'm not sure what do we do, but I think the expertise should guide states, whether that's the empowerment policy, whether it's the Committee on the Rights of the Child, but there needs to be some guidance to states about how they deal effectively and urgently with children's issues of children's rights in the digital world, especially as it relates to child online sexual exploitation and abuse, because it's really trending. We have AI generating content around child sexual abuse material circulating, and this does tremendous trauma and causes a lot of harm for the young person. Multi-stakeholder approach, I think, is central to the discussions. Government can't do it alone. Tech definitely can't do it alone. We can't trust them to do it alone. But then we also need the community, and the learner, again, needs to be at the center. I want to differ. I think I'm differing from the earlier statement said by the colleague around, when I think of child online safety, I often think about when we were growing up and there was crime in our community, right? And we were more conscientized on the crime. And the idea that my parents were like, crime will always be around, but you just need to be safe. So you need to know in which areas you go, what time you go, and how to be safe, and you need to know the number that you need to dial when you're in trouble. And since then, many, many years ago, I'm still an adult, and crime hasn't stopped, and it's not going to stop anytime soon. And so to say that our children, we need to, and I'm definitely agreeing with the fact that there needs to be certain measures to protect children from certain inappropriate materials that they should not be able to engage with at the tender age of being children, because they need to be children. And some content and the exposure of some content kind of removes that innocent child, nature of the child. But for us to have deep conversations about whether we remove it and we say until 18, I'm not sure about that. I struggle with that, because it's like, in South Africa, the voting age is 18. And until you're 17, you're not regarded as a voter. You don't have rights. And then on your 18th birthday, you have all these rights available to you, and you don't even know how to use these rights, right? And so the internet, if we delay exposure of children to the internet, obviously considering all the safeguards, it's like giving someone a ballot paper and saying, go and be great. And they don't know what to do with it, how to do with it. They don't know the power that is in their hand, right? And so I want to say, within the frameworks of child online safety, where government is doing what they should to protect children, tech is doing what they should, and not just, and with tech, there's a special kind of obligation that we always encourage tech to really be aware or be alive to. The fact that your obligation extends to not just making sure that young people are not exposed to harmful content, but encouraging, through algorithms, encouraging specific content, public service content, educational content, making sure that content that is going to allow for a healthier social media diet for the young person. And so those are the obligations, and we encourage platforms to be able to do that for the young person in alignment with children's digital rights. Then we also have obligations for parents. We were having a conversation earlier with my colleague who does not have children. I was saying that you guys always talk about having conversations with young people and encouraging parents to have conversations with young people, but that's never a real thing within the African context. And it's a challenge to African parents, in the sense that I know that, and even in legal documents and frameworks, even with the Children's Charter, there's this always overarching obligation of the parent to protect and take care, and there's this sense, even throughout the Charter, you get the sense that the child is there to benefit not just themselves as an individual, but also the family. And every sacrifice is for the better good of the family, the community. But those kind of sentiments do in real life on the ground tend to have tension with issues of rights to privacy, because we are saying at the same time that parents have the overarching responsibility of making sure that young people are safe, whether online or offline, but then we also then say that the right to privacy. So we need to be able to harmonize these, and this will only happen through multi-stakeholder relations to discussions where we say, where does the right to privacy come and where does the right to parent and taking care of children, the right to protection and care from children come into play? And so I know it's a slippery slope with parents, and a lot of time I'm also challenged even as a parent, do I practice all the things I say I do or tell parents to do? You know, but I think we need to have a deeper conversation with African parents around how do we embrace children's rights in the frameworks of our Africanism, if I can say that. And then the role, I cannot emphasize the role of media information literacy, digital and media literacy, being the cornerstone of children's digital rights. Without those kind of skills, those soft skills, but also the critical technical skills of just knowing by a sense, as you see a post, that this is disinformation, this is misinformation, I shouldn't share this, or how to report on a platform, to hold the platform accountable for your safety is so critical and so powerful in the hands of young people, because while we have the responsibility of government and tech and parents, the young person also, when we need to instill the idea of rights alongside responsibilities for young people. And we want to encourage young people to be able to have those digital and media literacy skills so that they can be empowered in the online space.
Thank you. Over to Kariuki.
Thank you so much for those points. I'll take this in a different direction. Every time we are discussing about child online safety in any forum, it always feels like there's nothing that is being done. And I want to change that narrative. I've been working in the online safety space for the last 12 years. And I have seen different forms of harms that children are going through. 12 years ago, if you asked me about AI, I would tell you, even in terms of policy, I would have not thought of it. But what CIPESA is hoping to bring together is having a notable voice to contribute in terms of policy in Africa. Myself and Phakamile, we have been in global forums. We've known each other for 8 years. And we go to global forums and speak for Africa. And yet there are a lot of African countries that are contributing to a lot when it comes to child online safety. And for the purposes of this meeting, I will let you know in terms of initiatives that are currently ongoing when it comes to child online safety. One, we have Namibia. I will excuse Namibia. Today, Namibia Children's Helpline, they are our members at CIPESA. They are celebrating 45 years in child protection. So they are the ones who are implementing the child online safety programs within Namibia, and they are doing an amazing job. 45 years from 1980, incredible. So they have, when you move around Namibia, you will, if you're using a Yango, you will see the driver's car seat, the car head, has a cover in some of those cars. And you have the number, the Namibian Child Helpline number. So in terms of child online safety issues, you can still call the 116 number. So Namibia are actually doing something. That is coming from the civil society side. Then we also have Ghana. Ghana last week, through the Ghana Child Online Safety Foundation, they launched child online safety clubs within the Ghana schools. In Kenya, we are doing quite a lot. In Kenya, we were the first country to have a specialized law enforcement unit dealing with child online safety matters. And my hope is we'll be able to encourage and replicate this in other African countries. In Cameroon, the tech company, MTN and MTV, in June, they collaborated in a very encouraging initiative on child online safety. So if you're on DSTV, I think they're on DSTV and MTV, I'm not sure. Yeah. You go and check. There's a program called In the Room, in the Safe Room. Room of Safety. That's a program for children to learn about child online safety. Similarly, in Kenya, we do have a program through Akili Kids Network that teaches children on child online safety. So we are working with a lot of people, tech companies, media companies, to pass their awareness messages. In Senegal, right now, they have their first grant from UNICEF, and they're implementing child online safety programs. Ethiopia, now they're 2 years in child online safety programs. So this is from the NGO end, where they're going to the schools to run awareness sessions. They're training the parents, the teachers, the law enforcement. We also have Tanzania through, these are countries where all our members are. We have Tanzania, through CIPESA. They are also running child online safety awareness programs. And last but not least, we also have Eswatini, who recently, last week, announced that they will be they are developing a strategy on child online safety. So don't leave this room dampened. Like, there's a lot that is happening in Africa. But the key thing is, for even tech platforms to be on the same table with them, we need to come together and have one voice. Maybe the AU is not quite there, yeah? But we can form other associations, even if it's through a COSA, where we can sit down with them and tell them this is where we are at, and this is what we require in terms of developing policies. So we have a strong voice. We create a strong voice in regards to contributing to anything globally in terms of child online safety. I feel really bad when, we see the civil society organizations in the EU sitting with the government, having that voice in terms of what needs to be done. So I'm hoping a COSA will be that voice for Africa. And I said currently we are 10 countries. In the next 3 months, we'll be adding on. Zambia is interested, Uganda. So we're hoping to have maybe 54 country representatives. That is my goal. That is what we are going for as a COSA. Yeah, and last but not least, we also have such forums. Last year, we had the first Africa Child Online Safety Summit, which was in Ethiopia. Next month, we will be in Nigeria. So these are organizations that we are sitting down, we are seeing what type of issues we are having, because we also need to be cognizant of every country has different issues. I earlier mentioned that I do work with TikTok as in the advisory board. And being in Kenya, I may not be able to understand the issues of other regions. But these particular meetings of, having a COSA, I'm able to understand, what is Nigeria going, what are the Nigerian issues in terms of children? Like we've seen, there's, sextortion issues. That's why we are heading to Nigeria to understand the issues around, sextortion and how best can we create policies around that. When it comes to Kenya, we are really having two issues. Do you want to know what are the main issues we're having in Kenya before? So the two worries that I have in Kenya are one, and this is a privacy meeting or, rights meeting, but the end-to-end encrypted platforms are really harming our children. Yeah? I don't want to mention the platform per se that is really harming our children. We sit with the government technical working group, with the law enforcement, and what now has happened is on our social media pages, we are having children activists or new vigilantes that are creating pseudo accounts and are reporting stuff that have been posted on Telegram, because we cannot be, sorry, I've mentioned Telegram. Oh, God, sorry. On Telegram, but we are hoping that that particular situation will be sorted out, but there's a lot of child sexual abuse content that is being pushed on that particular platform. And secondly, the other issue that we are dealing with is, right now what the teenagers are doing is, sextortion or sexting initially was coming from pressure of, if you ask me back in 2019, we were thinking it was pressure from some person in a foreign land. But right now, if your child is not sexting, is in the outs, they are not the current, they're not doing what every teenager is doing. And now our worry is, how do we change that mindset? We talk to them about the criminality of it. You're not supposed to send your sexual images and, to other children. But that is our worry in terms of it is now a trend. I don't know about other countries, but in Kenya, yeah, that's a very big worry. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Our panelists, some people here are worried about their children seeing only one leader all their lives because they have seen one president since they were born and have given birth, but I think you've heard. So people, we need to take these issues seriously. So I want to open up for some questions. Please keep your questions precise and concise, such that we can, and we'll take only one round of questions and my panelists will respond and we'll close the day. Yeah, so we have 3 hands so far. Okay, so the first person to put up his hand is the gentleman there. Yes.
Hello, can you hear me? Okay. So mine will be both a confusion and also maybe a comment. In Nigeria today, we have just reviewed our curriculum, and AI will be taught to children in secondary school. If you go to private schools, robotics is being taught, all right? And here I am as a parent who is not computer literate. How do we find that balance between parental regulation in the house and my understanding of this technology? And one of the panelists did say that if they really want to do anything these days, it's just hand over their phones or their gadgets to their 10-year-olds. And that is what we all do. It's either we are busy or we can't play with this technology. The other bit is around how we want to think safeguards within curriculum, outside of curriculum, and also the parental control. And I'm using parental control within the context of the right to limit some rights, all right? How do we balance that? I see your stand.
All right, the lady who is just in white. Please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for a very, very, very sobering conversation. I didn't expect that I was going to leave here feeling bad. I left here, I'm feeling very bad, but I'm also having a lot of questions. And so when you talked about end-to-end encryption and how it creates a problem, I think about human rights defenders and activists and investigative journalists and how it's important to them. And, you know, we have to be careful. I really think we have to be careful not to use a sledgehammer to kill a cockroach. I also think about digital rights and as our rights offline, our rights that we enjoy offline, that we enjoy online. And so when you think about children and their rights to some level of autonomy, and we think about the fact that there are things that happen offline that we also have no control over, I don't know if it is overregulation that is the thing that we need. And that's where I'm actually experiencing confusion. How many more laws do we need to regulate children? Are we taking away autonomy from them to a certain degree? You know, and I know she spoke a bit about children's agency and a balancing act, but I honestly, sincerely think when we talk about multi-stakeholder approach, we are looking at it even to the extent of the guys who you think don't matter, like the human rights defenders, the journalists, everybody. How does this affect every one of us when we are regulating children's rights and all of that? So I just have too many questions, but I think what I want to tell all of you, since you all work actively in these spaces, please really think through whatever interventions you are proposing and be sure that in trying to do something, we are not creating a bigger problem, because sometimes that's what happens, especially when we try to over-regulate and put out laws and we put out stuff like that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Well done. I enjoyed your session. Well done.
A third hand here, and then we'll go the other side. Twezi, please, go ahead.
Okay, I think I'm just adding up on what others have said, that on the issue of coming up with a curriculum, especially with that big network which you are looking forward to. So the curriculum shouldn't just start from primary schools. Maybe even baby class. The children have become so sophisticated, they're so smart. Even a 2-year-old child, you change your password, you even wonder how they'll figure it out, they'll open. They go to these sites, we even wonder, and then it's like the meta thing, they detect that this is a child who's using the phone. We want to co-parent with the phone. Sometimes you are home, you don't want to get distracted, you've got this essay, you've got this proposal which you are supposed to finish, you give your tablet to the child with access to internet. They are there browsing. They can even be there for 4 hours without even complaining. They're not even talking. You don't know what they're watching. So if we can have the curriculum which we can even engage the teachers, because I know these little ones, whatever teacher says is the truth. So if they can be, this curriculum, we take it to schools, teachers, they teach our children, they mentor our children that these sites you don't go to, this you do. They grasp things so fast. I think that will help kudos to that network which you are doing. I think Team Zambia will join the network.
All right, thank you. So the lady there, 1 minute, and then we'll cross to...
Thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to commend all the panelists on their extensive experience. But now, as a mother of, I have a teenage, I have a 8 years old and a 3 years old. I'm operating an account for my child, an Instagram account, as well as my own account. But when you look at the algorithm, there is so much a parent can do. Remember, most of us, we've been raised during there is no social media. So when I have to look at what when Instagram is bringing, are you interested on this? No, I'm not. This is for my child. So there is so much that we as parents can do. So I think we have to, I don't know, I will leave it to the suggestion on what the government can do, on what we as a parents can do, but there's so much we as parents can do actually on this.
And finally, yes.
Thank you very much. Speaking up from where the lady just stopped, I wanted to emphasize the issue of responsibility. I've had a lot of discussion about child protection, passing laws, curriculum, teaching children, but there's less discussion about parental responsibility. Colleagues, technology will not help us raise our children. We must do our role as parents. If you feel comfortable handing over your phone, like my colleagues have already spoken, and for you are busy doing whatever it is that you're doing, but your child is visiting whatever websites that you have opened up on your phone, please don't expect TikTok to do so much for your child. They may not even know that the person using the phone is a child because they are using your own account as an adult. I work for the regulator, and many times I receive complaints from parents saying there was a bad video on TV or online. It aired at 2 a.m. At midnight. Then I ask myself, as a father, as a mother, what are you doing allowing your daughter, 4-year-old, 7-year-old, to be on TV at 2 a.m.? What is your duty as a father? Were we raised like that by our parents? So colleagues, as we have conversations on child online protection, I request and propose that let us embed parental responsibility. Let this become the core. Even, for example, in our churches, religious leaders, they need to begin scheduling sermons just to teach parents on how they should lead their children, guide them, mentor them off the internet, and not think that Google, TikTok will become better parents than ourselves we can be. Thank you.
All right, and finally, before my panelists respond, yes, go ahead.
Thank you so much for the very insightful conversation. I think that there are some really key aspects that you raised. I wanted to hear from the panel, I believe that children today, as we've been saying, are incredibly insightful and agile to the environment that they're exposed to at the moment. How do you perceive children's role in creating regulation and policy to protect them? Because they are experiencing technology in a way that none of us in this room ever have. They are growing up with it in a way that none of us ever have. So they have certain expertise and insights that we don't have. So how can we include them in the conversation in a way that is lucrative and beneficial to them? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now to my panelists, kindly, I don't know, they didn't specify which speaker. You can just take about two minutes. And
yeah. I think I want to take the last question in terms of child participation in developing policies, and I like giving practical examples. In Kenya, we recently had the guidelines for child online safety for the tech community. And what we do is we have specific sessions. We had a specific session where we had children giving their inputs on the guidelines on child online safety for tech platforms. On a tech perspective, so I don't know if, for TikTok, we do have a safety advisory council. For children, we have who gives input directly to the TikTok team. I think Snapchat also has something similar, but not in our region. But for TikTok, they do have representatives or children in the region who sit with them, and they have they give them ideas or they have inputs in regards to the policies that they're developing. But from a country level as Kenya, we do engage them, even in terms of any law, public participation. Children's views and voice has to be included in those particular, documents and discussions. So that's very key. In other countries, I cannot speak for them, but yeah. Thanks.
I'll speak for South Africa. I run a program called Article 12, and it stems from the UNCRC Article 12, which talks about child participation in the best interest of children. I work with young people from the ages of 13 to 17. I generally work with young people for 5 years. In that 5 years, building up their skill level so that they can come in conferences. When the FIFA was in South Africa, we actually had children participate in the panel discussions. They also submit high-level policy discussions. Our latest one was to UNESCO. And actually, we were so surprised that they took exactly what the learners said, word for word, and they put it in the UNESCO guidelines on tech accountability and tech platforms discussion document. And so we do a lot of work around child participation, but it takes time. It takes 5 years to get a learner to understand all these diverse issues that even so it does take a lot of time. And again, then I want to move on to the other colleagues in the room who are talking about trying to find ways in which to balance child online safety with parenting and all those things. 2 weeks ago, one of the learners that I was working with for the last 5 years wrote a post. She was very upset, and this is a learner who's had high-level discussions, has been to outside of South Africa speaking about digital, so parents. So I don't know if it's helping to calm down the parental nerves, but you're not going to get it right the first time. But the issue, I think my colleague is very right to say that just like when television came and your child was sitting in front of the TV for like 10 hours and unregulated, it's the same with the internet. But the thing that you should not do as a parent is to helicopter parent your child. Don't do that. It's not in their best interests. It's like you've never taught your child that cars exist, and then one day you just let them out of the gate, and then you think they'll be okay, without knowing and understanding that cars exist everywhere and you need to be safe. So walk this journey with your child, understanding and knowing the parameters in which safety conversations can happen.
All right, thank you. To Effia.
Sorry, we did not mean to dampen your spirit or your mood, but I do think it's a conversation that is necessary to be had. I have seen that there is a pervasive ongoing issue on social media platforms, and that is actually the sexualization and the harassment of young girls. And so we do have to have these conversations online. There is a perpetuation of, unsafe environment, online environment, especially for children, especially Instagram. I think that the picture-based platforms are slightly more dangerous for certain populations, especially young girls, than some of the text-based. Lillian helpfully, enlisted and reminded us of all the various efforts that is happening, very commendable efforts happening across some of our countries. I think that the point I would like to make is that while those civil society efforts are fantastic, and it seems like most of the civil society is carrying half of the sky, right? The social media platforms are incredibly powerful. And in order to engage them, we do need states. And that's why I keep on saying that we do need our states and we do need our African Union to set up and come around. So when the EU issues guidelines to social media platforms and says, we do not want you to put harmful content on your platforms for our children, and they list the harmful content, self-harm, violence, hate speech, suicide, pornography. I think those are the things that we also don't want our children to be exposed. It has the and has nothing to do with South, North. No, these are things that we all agree on. When it comes to children, so there's, what I found out in this work is that engaging US politicians, they might look as if they are the most divided across the political line, but the thing that unites them? Questions around child safety. So I think that unites all of us, whether it is, should unite all of us. The social media platforms, the civil society efforts, and states, because we want to protect our children. So I think that's really what I would want us to go away with, that it's like an iceberg. It's a huge problem. Yes, civil society organizations are doing something about it. Our states do need to come around very quickly and get the laws in place. The AU needs to come in, because if AU imposes an obligation on Facebook, Facebook will have to oblige by it. But if my, small little Lesotho, Trump says he doesn't know where that countries such as that exist. It does exist. I lived there. I grew up there. So I want us to go away from here, yes, not with dumping spirit, but with the realization and recognition that something is going on online. We do need to protect our children. We do need to recognize that children do have agency and voice, and the children need to be engaged in whatever propositions we are making. But the problem is there, and we need to address it.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me to ask you to clap for yourselves. Some people didn't clap. But now you can clap for my panelists. I want to take this opportunity to appreciate each and every person of you for coming for this session, and hope you've learned something and that you're taking something back home to your families, to your children. And Kariuki, we are willing to join the network. Kindly add all of us. Aren't we willing to join? Yeah, she should interact with each one of us and then add us to the network. Thank you so much, and this brings us to the end of our session. I wish you the best of the rest of the day. Thank you. I'll request my panelists to stand up and ask someone to come and take a picture of us. Then the rest of you, you're free to go and run to other sessions.